Hello, everybody. Again, Dom Nicastro, CMSWire Managing Editor. We're here with our longtime contributor for CMSWire, Lisa Loftis, Principal Product Marketer, Global CI Practice at SAS. How you doing, Lisa?
I'm doing great, Dom. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to work with you on this level now. As a reporter, I went to you often to help me make sense of things in the CX and marketing world. So it's good to work with you on this level, working with your content now for CMSWire. And today, you talk about CX leader traits. So leadership focused article on CX. I love these pieces because, you know, we're all working with people. We want to know what skills and traits I should have. Are these skills and traits of this person, kind of what the industry is saying they should have, that kind of thing. So good stuff. And let's talk about some of those traits you talk about in the story. I mean, the article. First of all, CX leaders must be transformative. Why don't you talk a little bit about that one?
They are transformative. So this is actually, and I say this in the article, all three of them, but this one in particular, it's really a soapbox issue for me because transformative means you have to change the organization. This goes, I'll date myself here. This goes all the way back to when we called this thing CRM for customer relationship management and not CX for customer experience. And basically, we came up with, we were working with companies to try and get them to become more customer focused. And we came up with a definition for CRM that we thought kind of conveyed what they had to do. And it was basically the ability to align the business strategy with the organization structure, culture, and customer information technology, so that you could manage the interactions both to the satisfaction of customers and to the longer term benefit, of course, of the company. And the biggest component of that, and that's still the same today, but the biggest component of that is transformative, because you really have to build cross-functional business strategies and policies in order to be able to do what that definition says, because there are so many departments that are involved in CX, not just customer facing departments, but also customer impacting departments as well. So without the ability to build those cross-functional business strategies, CX just doesn't succeed.
Yeah. And, it's funny. Sometimes you say they must make change. They must force change. And my first instinct was, can they be allowed to do that? Like, is it a company that stifles creativity or stifles change? Like, so are you seeing, CX getting more of a thumbs up, from the executive C-suite really these days?
Yes. And I think there's a reason for that. And it's because digital transformation is just so big now. So, one of the things, we did a study with MIT Sloan on CX champions and what secrets they have versus other companies. And what we found is in those companies where CX is elevated to a corporate strategy, mainly when it's tied into digital transformation, one where you can't do one without the other, then yes, we are seeing companies transform. But that's also down to the culture, right? So in the old consulting days, we used to say to people who are trying to drive CX, are you a company that goes from the bottom up or top down, right? Mm-hmm. And you have to know what your culture is in order to drive that change. But in any case, it does require cross-function, because service and marketing have to get together, right? Marketing has to generate leads that customer service can use, as well as that sales can use. There has to be a feedback loop, so that if marketing is making recommendations and either the salespeople or the service people are talking to them, to the customers, and those recommendations aren't the right ones, there has to be that feedback loop. It really is a kind of a closed loop endeavor.
Yeah, exactly. Another trait for a CX leader you talk about is facilitating cohesion. So what's that one about?
So cohesion goes hand in hand with transformation, right? But the bottom line, one thing that although we did just talk about the fact that that the C-suite has to be willing to do this. Almost in most of the companies, almost every company that MIT sponsored, and most of the companies that we deal with, it's not a C-suite person that's in charge of the initiative overall. Right. So it's not someone that has the power to force change. Even if the business strategies are there, the CX leader has to be a coach, right? They have to be able to communicate, which is one of the skills and inspire, which are two of the skills that MIT found CX leaders really needed to have. Because they're not going to own every component of this. So they really have to be able to kind of work with the other business units, lay out the game plan, and then get out of the way. They put up the guardrails, but they don't have the power to get it all done. So cohesion, unifying really is a very important trait for a CX leader to have.
Yeah, having that vision is great and everything. The execution, as you said, there's just, oh, okay, CX wants to do this, but we need 7 other departments to sign off on it. So,
Dom, I had to tell you, in my old consulting days, one of the things we always did was, because we listened to the service people and the marketing people, but then we went out and we sat in on calls in the call center. And what the service people told us and what we heard in the call center were always such different things, from the leadership down to the people that actually do it. That cohesion has to reach all the way down into the organization. So that communication and inspiring, is just critical if you want really a cohesive, collaborative effort for CX.
Yeah, the call center is vital. I mean, I don't know why those people aren't the highest paid people in the company. I mean, they're the front door. I mean, it's like, you're not getting in if you have a bad call center. So it's such important stuff across the board to have that department collaboration for sure. Lastly, one of the traits you have is kind of ties this all together is just being able to tell a CX leader should be able to tell a clear, compelling story.
Yeah. And that's really, that goes back to analytics, basically, to customer knowledge, to understanding your market well enough that you have the ability to prove the ROI of the activities that you're asking people to do. And really, it's like a 3-legged stool, because if you can't tell that clear and compelling story with solid analytics and numbers and ROI, you're really, in my experience, forging change is pretty difficult.
Yeah. It's funny. We were going through a website redesign. We still are, or CMSWire, frankly. And I would have a great idea, right? I would be ready for that meeting. I would this is what we should do to the homepage and all that, right? And then someone comes in and says, that's our lowest viewing page, right? Why do we care? Why are you spending all, what I mean? Like, it's why are you spending all that time? So that whole data-driven versus creative juices really needs to work together, because, I was spending a massive amount of time trying to fix this page, and it's the lowest viewed page for us. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Lisa, lastly, looking at the future, what are some trends you're watching for the rest of 2022 and possibly end up in some of your content for CMSWire?
So don't hold me to it, because the great thing about this field is things change every single day. And if you're not agile, you are left behind. But I think some things that are really kind of going to stick are customer knowledge, right? That's going to be one of my main themes. What is it? How do you really know what your customers want? If you follow kind of the trends in CX, two of them, one of them is hyper personalization, which is basically, the old Peppers and Rogers segment of one, but in reality today, right, personalizing every interaction to every customer based on what you know. So if you get that wrong, you lose that customer. So how do you gain and facilitate the customer knowledge to do something like hyper personalization? That's going to be one of them. The ever expanding privacy, right? So how do we, as CX leaders and in particular as marketers, how do we not get around, that's a terrible word. How do we bring our practices, our data-driven practices, in line with what's happening from a privacy perspective? And that's not going to go away. Probably just general MarTech, because that industry is changing all the time as well. So I think that's where I'll be focusing.
Good. Well, we're looking forward to that. And lastly, I should have asked, I know SAS has North Carolina roots, correct?
They do.
Are you also in North Carolina, Lisa?
I am not.
You're not? Okay.
No.
Well, how is the natives of SAS in North Carolina doing after the big loss in the NCAA men's basketball tournament? But here's the deal. Yeah, you lost the final game, but you guys sent Coach K out a loser. I mean,
now wait a minute.
That's even better.
My sister graduated from Duke, so
all kinds of connections.
But SAS actually started as a spinoff from NC State.
Okay.
So
rival of
and they're all split. And my allegiance, I live in Pittsburgh, which is where I grew up. I did not go to college at Pitt, but my allegiance is to Pitt.
Very solid
because
program.
I grew up living with them, and my father went to college there. So, and Pitt won the ACC championship this year in football for the first time in who knows how long.
That's big. That's big. That is big. Well, good. So we're gonna have to figure. We're gonna have to say, all right, which one's better? I mean, yes, they lost in the finals, but beating Coach K is almost better than winning the national tournament in some sense. So. I think there's a little bit of both there, a happiness, but sadness that they couldn't finish the deal.
Oh, that's funny. Dom, do you have college roots?
No, I'm Boston, so we don't care about college. No one cares about college, Boston College. Nobody cares. We're all professional all the time. Patriots, Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics. Well, Lisa, thanks for the fun end to the conversation. And it's a great article, of course, and we're looking forward to more content down the road in CX and MarTech.
Well, thank you, Dom. This was fun. I'll do it again anytime.
All right, sounds good. Looking forward to. Have a good one, Lisa.
Bye-bye.